December 1968 was not just another month in the life of Elvis Presley, it was a moment that would forever change his career trajectory. Although the month featured the airing of his iconic NBC comeback special, which became the highest-rated TV show of the holiday season, that wasn't the main event that altered his life. Elvis had filmed the special during the summer, and after wrapping it up, he went back to his regular job, making movies. The film Charo had already been shot, and by December, Elvis was knee-deep in the production of another movie, The Trouble with Girls. It seemed like business as usual, especially when he got to return to his home in Memphis, right after MGM released him on December 18th. There, he spent quality time with his wife and their baby daughter during the holiday season at his cherished residence, Graceland. But if one looked closer, they would realize that something monumental was brewing behind the scenes. Elvis and his manager, Colonel Parker, had been contemplating a significant career move. The duo was considering how they could pivot Elvis's work to be more in line with evolving audience interests and more profitable for the star. In a way, this change was motivated both by artistic desire and economic necessity. A writer for the New York Times, Mike John, picked up on this, penning 2 articles about Elvis that ran on December 4th. The first article was a review of Elvis's TV special, which had aired the previous night and was received quite favorably. The second, and arguably the more critical piece, was about Elvis's decision to return to live performances. Using Colonel Parker's assistant, Tom Diskin, as a source, the article suggested that Elvis was planning to return to the stage mainly because it was a smarter business decision. The article didn't miss the point that Elvis was also paying attention to the resurgence of interest in old-style rock music. According to Diskin, the falling income from movie roles was forcing Elvis and his manager to rethink their career strategy. Tom Diskin laid out some figures, making a strong financial case for Elvis's return to personal appearances. Diskin stated that Elvis would spend approximately 15 weeks making a film, but if he performed concerts for 10 weeks at $100,000 per concert, he would come out far ahead. So, a shift was imminent, and this was more than just an industry rumor. It was a well-calculated business move. The plan was for Elvis to finish 2 more movie contracts, and then embark on a nationwide tour sometime in the late summer of 1969. Although the Times article had floated the idea of a nationwide summer tour for Elvis, Colonel Parker had other plans that were already in motion. In a surprising move, just 6 days after the Times articles were published, Colonel Parker reached out to Abe Lasfogel of the William Morris Agency. He asked Lasfogel to explore the possibility of a Las Vegas engagement for Elvis, offering a significant financial package for the gigs. Parker was not thinking small. He proposed a staggering $500,000 for a 4-week stint, or $300,000 for 2 weeks in Las Vegas. The conditions seemed lavish, with Elvis performing just 1 show per weekday and 2 shows during weekends, plus having Mondays completely off. At that time, such terms were unprecedented for a newcomer to the Las Vegas entertainment scene. The typical contract called for performers to put on 2 shows every night of the week without any days off, which was a far cry from what Parker was initially demanding for Elvis. However, the Colonel was not too rigid. He knew the art of negotiation and was willing to compromise. On December 19th, just 9 days after the Colonel made the initial Las Vegas inquiry, a deal was inked. They accepted a standard Las Vegas performance contract, although it was not exactly what they had initially hoped for. Elvis would be performing at Kirk Kerkorian's still-under-construction International Hotel, taking up a 4-week slot in midsummer for a sum of $100,000 per week. It was a commitment that would cement Elvis's return to live performances but also divert him from his Hollywood pursuits. This was not just a career change, it was a lifestyle alteration, going from the carefully controlled environment of a film set to the dynamic and demanding stage. Nevertheless, Elvis felt it was a necessary evolution, a step he needed to take to revive and reinvent himself as an artist. The engagement at the International Hotel offered him an opportunity to be the rock legend he was, without the constraints of movie roles that had increasingly felt limiting. And so, behind closed doors, Elvis and his team celebrated, completely unaware of how this pivot would shape the years to come. At this point, the focus was on the immediate future, the final 2 films, and the highly anticipated Vegas shows. Elvis was excited and hopeful, feeling that he was finally getting the best of both worlds, the thrill of live performance and the potential for more serious acting roles. And while the ink on the Las Vegas contract was still fresh, Elvis was optimistic that this would open new doors for him, both as a performer and as an actor. December 1968 closed out, leaving Elvis on the precipice of what promised to be an exhilarating new chapter in his illustrious career. Even as plans for the Las Vegas residency were solidifying, Elvis had not given up on his Hollywood aspirations. He genuinely believed that his decision to get back on the concert stage would not close the door on his film career. Rather, it would balance his artistic pursuits. At a press conference on August 1, 1969, following his opening night in Las Vegas, Elvis revealed his ongoing passion for acting. He shared his desire to take on more meaningful roles that were not just fluff but had depth and substance. "I want to change the type of scripts I have been doing," he said, clearly articulating his need for growth as an actor. Elvis was tired of the repetitive roles that pigeonholed him as a rugged but cheerful man who could win fights and women equally well. He felt like Hollywood had typecast him, forcing him into roles that were beneath his capability as an actor. It was evident in his words when he said, something with meaning, "I'm going after more serious material." Elvis wished to transition from the guy who could knock someone out and then sing to them, to a performer who could captivate audiences with a compelling narrative. Despite having this dream, Elvis was somewhat grounded in reality. He knew that achieving this acting transformation wouldn't happen overnight. But he was willing to put in the work and believed that freeing himself from long-term movie contracts would offer him the flexibility he needed. The plan was to continue doing live shows while carefully selecting film roles that could showcase his talents beyond just singing and fighting. In his mind, live performances were a means to an end, a way to keep his brand alive while he worked on improving his filmography. The irony, of course, was that Elvis didn't know that The Trouble with Girls would be one of his last films. As he stood there at the press conference, he was unknowingly saying goodbye to a part of his career that he so deeply wanted to flourish. He was 33 years old at the time, a young man by most standards, but he had no inkling that his aspirations for a meaningful acting career were already behind him. As the 1960s came to a close, Elvis felt he was at a pivot point, where he could finally be both a mesmerizing stage performer and a thoughtful, meaningful actor. Looking back, one can see how Elvis thought he had it all figured out, that he could have the cake and eat it too. But life and careers are often not as predictable as we think, and Elvis was standing at a crossroads, even if he didn't fully realize it. As December 1968 turned into January 1969, Elvis was full of optimism, unaware that the decisions made during that pivotal month would define much of his future. As the new year began, Elvis felt he was entering a new chapter that promised an ideal blend of live performances and substantial acting roles. He saw the decision made in December 1968 as a win-win situation, one that led to both artistic satisfaction and a lucrative financial model. However, the harsh reality was that the decision would actually funnel him further down a path that he had not entirely foreseen. Although the live shows brought in excellent revenue, they were also physically and emotionally draining for the king of rock and roll. What started as an artistic choice to revitalize his career began morphing into his cycle of constant touring and performing. The money was good, too good to turn down, and this financial lure kept him locked into the rigorous schedule of personal appearances. Unfortunately, the stress and strain of this lifestyle led Elvis to rely increasingly on prescription medications to keep up with the demands. He began a precarious dance with substances that helped him perform and then unwind, a cycle that grew more dangerous with time. It was a route that no one had planned but became an unintended consequence of the decision to shift the focus of his career. The demanding lifestyle led him to make compromises on his health and well-being, a slippery slope that many entertainers find difficult to navigate. This isn't to say that Elvis did not enjoy the live shows. He relished the direct connection with his fans and the thrill of live performance. Yet, the cost was high, affecting not just his health but also quietly closing the door on the serious acting roles he had so desperately wanted. As the years rolled by, the hope of returning to meaningful cinema roles dimmed, while the bright lights of the stage continued to beckon. His stage presence was electric, a testament to his enduring talent, but it was also a mask that hid the growing struggles he was facing behind the scenes. From the outside, it seemed like Elvis had it all: fame, fortune, and the adoration of millions. However, on the inside, the star that had once dreamed of becoming a serious actor was becoming increasingly aware that his life was slipping into a routine he had not planned for. The more he got caught in this loop, the further he drifted from his initial vision for his career. It's a cautionary tale of how choices, even those made with the best of intentions, can lead down unexpected paths. When he made the choice to return to the stage in December 1968, Elvis unknowingly set his life on a course that was both rewarding and damaging. As the years passed, the man who once sought balance in his career found himself tipping dangerously toward a future he hadn't envisioned. December 1968 was a turning point for Elvis, a moment that offered both a renewed sense of purpose and an unintentional path toward his eventual downfall. The choice to re-enter the concert circuit revived his career in ways that captivated audiences anew and brought him much financial stability. Indeed, his performances were nothing short of magical, full of an electric energy that only a performer of his caliber could deliver. For fans, the chance to see Elvis live on stage was a dream come true, an experience that many had yearned for during his movie years. Yet, the intensity of this new phase in his career had a darker side, one that could not be ignored despite the bright lights and roaring crowds. The demands of touring, the expectations of always being Elvis the performer, began to take an irrevocable toll on his health and spirit. The incessant pressure and the lifestyle it entailed led him down a path of dependence on various substances, a struggle that remained hidden behind the curtain. For Elvis, the decision that initially seemed to promise freedom and balance ended up becoming a trap of its own. In less than a decade after that fateful December, Elvis Presley would pass away, far too young, a casualty of the very lifestyle that had once reignited his career. There's a kind of poetic tragedy in how a decision that led to so much glory also contributed to such a painful end. It's a poignant reminder that choices carry weight, and the full impact often reveals itself only in hindsight. While Elvis found much success and happiness in his performances, the cost was an emotional and physical exhaustion that he couldn't sustain. The public saw the charm, the glamour, and the indomitable spirit of a rock and roll legend, but not the quiet desperation that dogged him behind closed doors. In many ways, the tale of Elvis's later years is a cautionary story, a parable of the price of fame and the dangers of straying too far from one's true artistic desires. Had he lived longer, who knows what other artistic avenues he could have explored or what other roles he might have excelled in. Instead, his life serves as a compelling but tragic story, one that warns us about the complexities and risks inherent in the pursuit of success and artistic fulfillment. No one could have predicted in December 1968 that the decision to re-enter live performing would have such a profound impact on Elvis's life, both positively and negatively. As fans and historians look back on his storied career, the decision made in that December stands out as a defining moment, for better and for worse. While it brought him back to the heart of what made him an icon, it also set the stage for his untimely demise. Ultimately, Elvis's life was a complex tapestry of triumphs and tragedies, a journey that began and ended with the power of choice, both his own and those made on his behalf.